Hello, everyone, and welcome to Solshow. Today we are doing another podcast review, and I am with my good buddy, another member from Decoded. We have Sean. Sean, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sean. I'm probably, I would say, probably the second in command here at Decoded, and I thoroughly am excited to be here. This is my first time doing this with you, so I'm hyped.
As have I. Also the best looking member, if I do say so myself, obviously.
Dang, thanks, man. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and today we're talking about the Netflix original series, a series of unfortunate events.
Yes.
Lemony Snicket, and I'm just gonna. I guess we can just start with our backgrounds with the show and the series and all that.
Okay.
Did you read the books as a kid?
I did. I had read the first three, I want to say, for a class, because I'm not a huge reader as is, but as I was reading them, I actually really got into it. And so when I found out they were doing the movie at first, I got excited. Then I heard that the movie completely sucked, like all the butt, and so I didn't even watch it. But then I found out about this Netflix series, and I know Netflix has a pretty good record of shows, so I got really excited, and I was very happily met with my expectations.
Yeah. For me personally, I remember hearing about the books as a kid. I was like, that looks terrible. But then I actually read them. I read all. There's like 13 of them.
Yeah.
And if you're a kid with no money, tracking down 13 books when you didn't have eBay is extremely hard to do. So I was very proud of myself as a kid when I got all those things. They were not easy to get. But they're a really good book series, even if because it's essentially a children's book series. But if you're an adult, you can read them and just feel weird reading children's books. That's what I usually do. And then they came out with the movie. I have mixed feelings about the movie. That's a review for another day. I probably don't hate it as much as Keith does. I know he hates that movie.
Well, I think the problem was like they had just tried to cram like 5 stories into one movie, and like you just can't do that kind of thing. Like they had the opportunity to do like a Netflix route and do multiple movies and stuff, which I'm sure they wanted to do, but trying to cram 5 stories into one movie will just be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that's essentially what happened with the movie, where it was like it ended, and you could tell that they were like unsure that the movie would get, because if the movie tried to end the story, that would take essentially like 4 to 5 movies, even if they did cram all of them into these movies. So it was kind of just like the story never ended, so it was kind of just. It was a bad idea from the beginning. Essentially, this story can't work unless it was like, television format, right?
Absolutely.
And, TV, I don't think, doesn't take those kind of weird risks like that. Netflix does nowadays.
Yeah.
And that's why we see all these interesting shows that kind of break the norm with, like, the number of episodes. Like, this is, like, how many episodes are in this season? Like 8?
Yeah,
It's
there are
like,
8. And they're all a
it's
good
like,
hour each, I think, like a full hour.
yeah, like that doesn't happen that often that television takes those weird ideas and makes 8 hours of it and just throws it out there.
Yeah.
So essentially, when I heard about this series, the reason I got excited for it was this was like the only way that this adaptation could work. And then I saw it, and I really enjoyed it. What did you think of the series itself?
Leading up to it, I was super excited. One, because I'm just a huge fan of the series. Also, I'm a big fan of Neil Patrick Harris, who,
Yes.
for those who don't know, played Count Olaf. One of my concerns, though, was that because Neil Patrick Harris was in it, it was going to end up being like the Neil Patrick Harris show. Like they were going to focus too much on him. And I think once I finally watched the show, they actually spaced him out pretty well, I thought, and gave him enough different things to do to where he doesn't sound like too much like Barney Stinson. And I think it worked out really well, and I think he did an incredible job as Count Olaf. And I think everybody else did extremely well. I think the kids were very well talented. And Patrick Warburton is crazy fun playing Lemony Snicket.
Yeah.
And
I'll get into that later. Continue.
yeah, and I think the way of storytelling was extremely well done because they cover 4 books in the 8 episodes, and they do it really well, having 2 episodes be dedicated to a book. And I think that's that's what the movie should have did, but giving it enough time to establish characters, establish the world, and tell the story. And it was hilarious. It was a good mystery, plenty of twists that translated really well, and they actually hit themes where I'd completely forgotten about and are extremely dark, especially with spoiler alert, Count Olaf trying to marry the girl.
Mm-hmm.
It's some pretty dark stuff, and that they were willing to, as you said, Netflix being so ready to upset the norm, going out there and actually putting it down on screen, I think actually works a whole lot well in the series' favor.
Mm-hmm. Just to touch on like basically everything you said, Neil Patrick Harris, I was kind of conflicted about that choice going in because I was like, I don't know if that can work. If you watch the movie, Jim Carrey actually did a pretty good job as Count Olaf. That's probably like one of the good things about the movie.
Yeah.
But for the TV show, because in the book series, Count Olaf, he kind of starts out like the worst thing he does, is like hitting a kid and like threatening to kill them.
Yep.
And then by like the end of the series, like he's just like the most despicable, like he's murdering people, right?
Yeah.
So like right now it's kind of like the fun, zany Count Olaf, and I think so far Neil Patrick Harris is killing it. But I hope in the future he can really just become this like very evil person. So I'm excited to see where that goes. And what's that guy's name who plays Lemony Snicket?
Patrick Warburton.
Yeah, Joe Swanson from Family Guy.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah, perfect. Like that was like the most perfect choice because essentially another reason why this couldn't work in any other medium is because in the books Lemony Snicket is basically narrating the story, and like it's like he's forced to narrate it. Like he's like, don't read this book series, it's awful. I'm being forced to do this, and like he's always like randomly being like, oh, I have to run from the cops now.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, but it's so great, and there's so much mystery that is always up in the air, and it actually worked in this series. And like it was funny seeing him, like he was just randomly like when they're on the beach just in a bathing suit narrating.
Yeah.
Those little things I always liked, and the show is actually like extremely funny. Like it acts like it's all dark, but like all the pretty much any adult in the series, like especially from here on out, is just evil, or they're either very evil or very stupid. Mr. Poe is a great example, where it's like he's not evil, but he's the stupidest person you could ever meet. Another great thing about this show is, or any time books are being adapted, the great thing about them being like on film is we get to kind of leave the characters' perception. Like if you read Harry Potter, it's always Harry Potter who's it's the focus is on him.
Yeah.
But with the movies or this show, the focus is on other things, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about the show is the attention to everyone and then the little details inside of that. I mean, they focus on the talents and the skills that each of the kids have independently. And then when you actually get to see them work together using all of their talents, it actually mends really well together, showing that, yeah, they can do stuff on their own, and they're also a force to be reckoned with when they're together. And touching on what you said, like how it was just incredibly funny, and that's one of my favorite things about the show is like the little jokes here and there, like the stuff that literally just flies by, like little lines here and there that they play off as like normal conversation and not purposely for laughs.
Yeah. My favorite line was like, why would you go to the theater when you could watch something perfectly from your home?
Yep.
And he just looks at the camera.
Yep.
That was the best joke. I laugh my ass off.
And then there's the one where like the boy's talking to Olaf and he uses the word titular, and kind of Olaf's like, I don't think a boy your age should be using the word titular, and starts giggling.
Yeah.
And then he starts giggling. Great. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, there's like dozens of those little lines that are just kind of randomly thrown in there.
Yeah, the show
And
is so cleverly well written. It's so well put together, and they luckily managed to keep that throughout the episodes. It's just very cleverly written all the way through, and I was
mhm.
very pleased with the writing. Even if the spectacle itself wasn't all that great, the writing was phenomenal.
And this is it's going to be spoilers from here on out for anyone listening. But in the show, they kept like showing these parents, right? And it was you assume it's their parents, and
Yeah,
they survived the fire, right? And as a book reader, like that didn't happen. You never saw
right.
those people. So I was like, they kept the parents alive, and I was so pissed. Like I was like, because in the books there's like one part where it's like, are they alive? And it kind of just shuts that down. So I was like, they're gonna keep the parents alive, and I was like really upset by that. And then um, they had that amazing fake out where the parents belong to those other kids, and those other kids are gonna be characters who show up for the rest of the series. So like immediately I knew, oh, that's their parents, and I knew like right when that scene happened, like it was this big reveal to me. As a person who didn't get that far in the books, did you like understand that right away, or were you just kind of
Uh,
like,
when they had first introduced the parents, I thought it was a really interesting choice because I thought, yeah, like even reading only the first three books, I just kind of felt that they were dead the entire time anyway.
mm,
And so when they had brought him back, I thought it was a really interesting choice. I didn't hate it like you said you did. I thought it was certainly interesting to see where they ended up and why the kids are stuck like this now. Um, but I did enjoy it a whole lot when they did do the big fake out at the end. And because then I'm like, okay, then what do these guys have in common with the Baudelaire parents that their house gets burned down too, and why they get to be? I assume they're killed as well,
mm.
but I don't know. Because
If you're a nice parent in the show, you're probably dead.
yes. Um,
That's a general theme.
but yeah, like even the final scene where you get to see that the kids are in the same school together now, and
Mm.
it's gonna set up tons of fun for the next season once they finally get that rolling. So no,
Mm.
I enjoyed the bait and switch, and I thought it was a very good choice, very interesting choice, and a lot of people probably I don't know how the vast majority felt, but I feel like most people were probably either confused or annoyed, and I feel like people who really understood what was going on probably really liked it. But
Mm.
I enjoyed it, and I guess that's all that really matters.
Yeah, and for season two, because the series after this, basically they're gonna be like, they're not they're not gonna be going from Guardian to Guardian like they have. They're gonna be like on the run, or they're gonna be like running away from people, or they're gonna be all over the place. The format's gonna change completely. So, um, them being at the school, like if in case like the actors get older or something, this is like a perfect place for like a time skip because it's essentially the only place that there can be a normal time skip. So I thought ending the series right there was a pretty good choice.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I was going to ask you. Like, what did you think of the big musical number ending right at the last episode there?
um, I didn't. I was just kind of just like because it was kind of cringy in all honesty, but it was kind of like the opening, like it was such a catchy opening that like I don't know, like them doing a musical number almost felt normal, I guess, but I don't know. I guess I'm conflicted about it.
Yeah,
Um,
it definitely took me by surprise. I wasn't sitting there expecting a musical number, but like listening to it and watching it happen, like yeah, I agree. It kind of fits, even though it's a little weird and out of place. Because I think you have to
mm,
remember, like this entire story is weird and out of place,
yeah, I
and
think that's a fair argument.
I think like the ending really shows is like as like the song was saying, like there is no happy ending. Like this is just what it is. This is just how it goes. And I
Mm,
thought it was a very, I don't want to say bold, but at least a very brave decision to be like,
mm,
yo, we're not even going to end season one on a happy note. Even after like all
mm,
this crap they go through, like they're still in this crap and they still forced to go through more crap come the following seasons.
Oh,
And
for
so
sure.
it was a very brave thing to do, and I really appreciate Netflix and the writers for sticking by it.
Yeah. Which is, it's like each book ends like that. It's always like, oh, well, somebody died and we're gonna be on the run. And that's how, like, essentially every book is just like despair, um, for these characters that you like just really want to have a nice day. Like just them like in these little moments of happiness. Like those are like the best parts for the series,
Yeah.
um, going forth. But your final thoughts?
It's a great show. If anyone hasn't watched it yet, I highly suggest watching it. It's just a fun thing to sit through, and it's funny. Everyone's funny. Shout out to Count Olaf and his like crew of hooligans and stuff, because they're definitely the humor throughout the entire series, and they're so much fun to watch. The kids are fantastic. The story's fantastic. It's so cleverly written. It's dark, but in a comedic kind of way, and I think anybody who watches that will get that and thoroughly enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. And if you could give it a score, assuming you had to, what would you give it?
How do you do it? Do you do it 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5?
Yeah,
what
out
do
of
you do?
10.
Out of 10?
Out of
Okay.
10.
I'd give it a good, let's see, I'd give it a good maybe 8.5, 9.
Okay.
Like, it's an extremely well put together series. I still think there could be more done. But, I mean, with everything Netflix has, because it's still a TV show, so they don't get a full, like, feature-length budget. But given everything they had, I think it's extremely well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My final thoughts. I thought it was a great series. As an adaptation, for me personally, there was just, a lot of little tidbits and little things, like little beats that I was always kind of like, oh yeah, they did that right. They did that right. And most of the liberties they took were, Neil Patrick Harris, like his comedy sections, or like these little, they're adding a little bit of story actually to kind of like sew it all together, and I really appreciate that. Each of the actors, from the Neil Patrick Harris to the little baby, I enjoy all of them. Even though the baby was kind of obviously CGI'd, and sometimes it looked like the actors were holding a rock instead of a baby.
Yep.
But that's like in every movie that there's a baby. Sometimes it just looks like they're holding a rock, because that's what they're actually holding. I still very much enjoyed the series. I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10. Sole badge of approval, all that great stuff. And season 2 is hopefully going to be even better. And I will be so happy if they reach the ending, which it would only take like 3 or 4 seasons. But if they can reach the ending of the show, it has an amazing ending, and I can't wait for that.
I think with the huge success this first season has had, I think they'll be able to get the next 3 or 4 seasons they need to do to wrap it up. So I think we'll get we'll get your magical ending.
I'm gonna be so excited. Well, Sean, thank you for being on the show.
Always, man.
Yep, and if you have Twitters or even the Decoded channel, I'll link those down below.
Yep, just the Decoded for me. I'm too lazy for Twitter, so.
But it's all good, man. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and with that, we leave you.